How's it going, everyone? The PlayStation Store is currently running its indie sale. We took a look at the deals under $5. Time to expand things a little bit and look at the deals under $10. Some really solid deals all around. Let's go through this relatively quickly. As always, links to all of the deals will be in the description box below. So let's get into it, and let's start things off with Hellblade with Sacrifice, which is 75% off for $7.49. This was an action game developed by the very talented folk over at Ninja Theory. However, compared to some of Ninja Theory's other games, Hellblade Senua with Sacrifice definitely employed atmosphere at the heart of the game and creating more of a psychological action title. It's not a super lengthy game, but it is an incredibly engrossing game, and in terms of thematics, it's a very, very dark game at times as well. One of the more unique action titles that I played, and I remember when we initially saw gameplay of Hellblade Senua with Sacrifice, I was not completely sold on it. I was like, this game looks a little rough around the edges, and then ultimately when the game released, they completely flipped the script on that one, and the game turned out to be really, really good. Hellblade 2 is, of course, in development. Unfortunately, with Ninja Theory being acquired by Microsoft, that game will not be coming to PlayStation platforms, but hopefully you can get a platform to play that game as well. For now, Hellblade 1, if you haven't played it, definitely check out Senua Sacrifice at $7.49. Again, not a super lengthy game, but given how many, 80 to 100-hour games we get these days, sometimes it's nice to get into something you can complete over a weekend, and I feel like Hellblade Senua Sacrifice is exactly that. Alright, next up, we got Mark of the Ninja Remastered, 55% off for $8.99. This was one of those downloadable titles that dropped on Xbox 360 back in the day that turned out to be really good, but over the years kind of was forgotten about, and I was so happy when they announced Mark of the Ninja Remastered because it gave a chance for this game to get reintroduced to a new audience of people, and I don't believe the game actually ever got a PlayStation 3 release. So as far as playing it on a PlayStation platform, this was a first. Now, this remastered version I wouldn't say is uplifting the visuals to any grandiose degree, but it does look very good, and it had a great art style already, so it's just aged really well. If you're into action stealth titles, this is one that I think you're gonna really enjoy, and you do have a DLC included as well, and the visual style was already really good. You got New Game Plus in there as well. Another game that's not super lengthy, but I think you'll enjoy it. Maybe not worth the $19.99 at full price, given that, this game did initially come out all those years ago, but at $9, I think it's a much more palatable pickup, and I think that's a pretty good pickup. Alright, next up, we have SOMA, 80% off for $5.99. This is included with PlayStation Plus Extra, if you do want to play it that way. SOMA is one of those games that I always try to talk up whenever it goes on sale. $29.99 might be a bit pricey, but hell, I paid $29.99 when it initially came out. I want to say 2015. Had a great time with it. This game is done by Frictional, the studio that's probably best known for their work on the Amnesia titles. SOMA, in my opinion, is their best game. This game, in terms of a horror title, does a really good job of really embodying that horror aspect to it. Incredible, incredible atmosphere. It's set in this remote research facility underwater, and yeah, it's a pretty spooky game, and if you want something that's more of an engrossing horror game, and SOMA is one of those games that, it's not an action-heavy horror title, it's more of a, get you an invested horror game and just try to survive, and I think it does a really good job in that sense. Again, 80% off is a steep discount for the game. $6 I think is a great price, definitely worthwhile. Next up, one of the more iconic games, in all honesty, that's been released in the last decade or so, and that is Undertale, 40% off for $9. Now, you might think, hey, this isn't a super steep discount, 40% off, maybe I should wait for it to be 75% off. I wouldn't wait for that steep of a discount just because Undertale very rarely sees significant discounts. However, it's one of those games that just getting it on any type of discount or even paying the full $15, it's a worthwhile game. It's very much a throwback RPG. I've seen people compare it to titles such as Earthbound and whatnot. Those RPGs are kind of before my time, so I'll tell you what I think about Undertale as its own. Another pretty dark RPG, pretty interesting in a lot of areas in the sense that it has some humor to it, but at the same time, it has some interesting choices to be made, and it's a game that I highly recommend everyone to play. There's a reason why this game was received incredibly well, got Game of the Year awards, and generally speaking, just people think incredibly highly about it. $9 I think is a great price, and even that $15 price point, I think you'll enjoy quite a bit. Just know what you're getting yourself into in terms of visual style. You can see the game. It's definitely a throwback to Super Nintendo RPGs, but yeah, check it out for yourself. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Alright, next up, Slay the Spire, 60% off for $9.99. This is a game that I was getting into right when it came out. I think I picked it up right before it went out of early access on PC, yeah. So initially, when I heard about this game and I, like, read what it was about, I was like, huh, that sounds kind of interesting, but I don't really know how that's going to turn out. A roguelike combined with a card game, and then you start playing Slay the Spire, and it comes across very simple at first, and then you realize, oh boy, there's quite a bit of depth to this game, there's quite a bit of strategy to be had, and there's quite a bit of thinking in how you structure your deck, how you create your deck, and it becomes a super addicting game that is incredibly replayable. I have friends that have clocked in like hundreds of hours into Slay the Spire. It's a game that on the surface looks very simple, but if you're a fan of card games, get into it, and the elements of a roguelike combined with a card game, I just thought it worked out really well. Nowadays, you see a lot of games going with this roguelike deck builder style of gameplay, but this was the first one that I had really gotten into, and Slay the Spire I thought did a fantastic job in hooking me into the game. And again, it starts off super simple, you understand how to play the game pretty quickly, but then you realize as you continue playing that there's quite a bit of depth in how you want to structure your playthrough. $9.99 I think is a great price, and again, it can become a very addicting game. Alright, next up we have Axiom Verge, 50% off for $9.99. This was a game that was done by one person, and they did a fantastic job with it. If you're a fan of Metroidvania titles, Axiom Verge is a love letter to some of those classics. It's got that throwback art style, but it's got the gameplay elements that you'll know and love if you played some of the older Metroid titles and whatnot. Obviously, pixel graphics, visual style, so that might not be for everyone, but I thought the game had a good bit of content in terms of how much you're paying, but I thought the game had a good bit of content, and again, definitely a love letter to some of the classics. I didn't grow up, again, with those, that era of video games, but even then, I can find a lot of charm out of Axiom Verge. Gameplay solid, and for $9.99, I think this is a fairly solid pickup. Alright, next up, we have Transistor, 70% off for $5.99. I don't know if it's too much of a stretch to say that this is Supergiant Games' lowest key title. Maybe Pyre is. It seems like Bastion and Hades get most of the attention, but Transistor is very good as well. Has this awesome sci-fi theme setting and phenomenal soundtrack, great visual style. I mean, like, Supergiant Games visual style, soundtrack, those are just like a formality that those are going to be really good, and Transistor, once again, is pretty darn good in that side of the game development area as well. Pretty interesting gameplay as well, but check it out. I mean, you guys know Supergiant Games is always going to deliver bangers. Transistor is another one that is very much a great game. 70% off for $5.99 I think is a good pickup. This was a PlayStation Plus title, if I recall correctly, all those years ago, so check your library. You might end up owning it, but it came out back in like 2014, and yeah, I believe it was a Plus title right when it came out, so I just wanted to make that note as well, but $6, good price for that. Next up, we have the Vanishing of Ethan Carter, 85% off for $2.99. This is also included with PlayStation Plus Extra. This is a game you gotta know what you're getting yourself into. This is very much more of a walking simulator exploration style game that is very much story driven, but a game that goes for investing you into the world, the narrative, and the atmosphere of the game, but it does a pretty good job in doing that. Visually, I think the game is kind of an underrated title in terms of, I thought the art direction was quite good, but for $3, I think it's a great pickup. The initial $19.99 price tag may have been a little high, but for $3, I think this is a really good pickup, especially if you're into this style of game where it is more tranquil and trying to get you, you know, exploring and whatnot, and really relying on the environments. Again, $3 I think is a pretty good pickup. Next up, for those of you that wanted a new Final Fantasy Tactics, but it's just not coming out, Felseal Arbiter's Mark for 70% off for $9 or $7.49 if you're a Plus subscriber. I think this is a great pickup. This is the tactical RPG that is obviously inspired by some of the greats. Pretty good narrative attached to it, and the gameplay is, again, if you're a fan of that tactics-based RPG style, it's going to be right up your alley in terms of that. Story is pretty good, not like a blow-away RPG story, but I thought it was fairly good, and it's a relatively lengthy game as well. So if that's a style of game you're looking for, $7.49 with a Plus subscription, or $9 without. Pretty solid pickup, all things considered. And lastly, Don't really need to sell you guys on this one, but Hollow Knight Voidheart Edition is 50% off for $7.49. This is included with the PlayStation Plus Extra. Another one of those top-tier received Metroidvania titles that it seems like everybody really loves. It's not the Metroidvania that I really got into. I enjoyed my time with it, don't get me wrong, but I was checking out Hollow Knight right around the time I want to say that Dead Cells came out, and Dead Cells was the game that really got my attention, but the game has been received incredibly positively by everyone that's played it. It's got a great art style as well. A little bit on the difficult side, but, you know, quite a bit of content in this one as well, and a good bit of replayability. So, the price point, $7.49, I think that's fairly good, and given the fact it is in PlayStation Plus Extra, if you want to play it that way, that is an option as well. And that's going to do it for me. Again, I think this indie sale has a lot of great deals. There's a ton of deals available, so going through every page, it's a lot of games that I personally haven't played, but some stuff that I do want to check out as well, so we'll see if that happens. There's a ton of games coming out, so I understand that right now it's kind of slim pickings in terms of adding stuff to the backlog, or, you know, putting something at the front of the backlog and checking it out right away. So if you guys are in the same boat as me, you know, maybe take it easy for the next couple of sales and, you know, pick some stuff up when the holidays roll around, but still some good stuff all around. That's going to do it for me, though. Links to everything, as always, description box down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.